Wi-Fi stays good, I'll be all right. Is there a delay?
You know, I love that intro every single time. And the one thing I can say for sure is that that intro is very old sounding, but it also might be where George's internet's coming from this morning. I think George is responding to something he heard from 1985, just randomly out of nowhere at the beginning of that. How is everyone doing? Oh, that's the Jeff says I'm out. He's the guy for the car might have showed up a little bit early. I know he was thinking about taking off here shortly. So hopefully he'll be right back. Welcome. It's week 8. It's the Blitz. We are here with you once again. We're ready to get this week kick started. We got another big week ahead of us. A lot of huge. I know there's a lot of huge swings happening. I know you got a lot of teams out there that are like 3-3, 4-3. I guess it'd be 4-3, 3-4, and things like that right now. That really need to turn that swing. So we are here for you. On my right, for starters, we got my man Jason. Jason, how we doing this morning?
I'm doing great. You know what? Watching the Bucks lose on Thursday night means my Sunday is free to watch actual real football. So good to go, man.
Man, it's rough to be a Bucks fan right now. I tell you what, I was joking about the Giselle making magic potions for Brady, but now I'm really kind of starting to wonder if there's a little bit of truth to that theory. With me also on my bottom right, we got my man George. George, how's it going this morning, buddy?
So I want to let you know that I would bet the Giants to win the 1987 Super Bowl this year. I've got this feeling that they're going to go all the way this year and they're going to win the Super Bowl. 1987 Super Bowl Giants. I'm calling it now.
Right. Lawrence Taylor has never looked better. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean,
he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer at some point.
He might just be. With me also is my man JoJo. How's it going this morning?
I'm doing well. Just taking bets on if we get another random scarecrow sighting today on the Blitz.
You know, that still creeped me out last night. That was funny. I still appreciate how well you and Jeff handled that like champions. You didn't even blink. It just happened. You're like, okay, we're just gonna continue the show. But I do wish you would have said what you said in the chat, and that's ask him ask him his opinion on that one. We'll make sure that if the scarecrow hops in, we'll get their opinion on some starts and sits that we get brewing up in here. For starters here, I got one question loaded up on the sleeper. It could be a pretty slow day with this Broncos game. I know a lot of people like to watch that football, especially when it's a good game like this. Although this is probably not the best of games that have been out this year, but it is a little bit better than most of the Thursday night matchups at the very, very least. The guy actually asked a question that probably isn't so much relevant now, but who would you start, Aaron Jones or Travis Etienne? And on this one, I said I would pick Jones, but 10:30, I'd say you guys would break this down. So, Jason, who would you take right here?
Well, I mean, look, Etienne's got almost 100 by halftime on the ground. He's trending up. Aaron Jones is playing against the vaunted Buffalo defense. Has only had 2 solid games. One was last week. Don't get me wrong. You're hoping for that again. The only bright side here is that Lazard's probably not playing. I don't know if we got the official word yet, but so like Aaron Jones could get a lot of passing, but with the everything trending up for Etienne in Jacksonville, for me it would have been Etienne, although now it's too late, and if you didn't start him, you can't start him.
Yeah, you know, I think I kind of agree with that. Like I said, I mean, if it would have been up to me beforehand, I think I'd have still gone with Aaron Jones here. I do like what I've been seeing out of Etienne. It's just that I feel like the Packers are just going to have to just get to a point where they run the ball, try to kill the clock, and try to make 2023 hurry up and get here as fast as they possibly can. Jeff just joining us. How's it going, Jeff? How do you feel about this one?
Hey, sorry for the technical interruptions all the way around this morning. So I kind of jumped in the middle. We talking about the Jacksonville game going on right now?
It's Aaron Jones versus ETN. Who would you have started?
I would have biasly taken ETN because he's on my regular fantasy team. It seems like, especially since Brian Robinson has kind of gone a different direction, that he's been kind of their workhorse and their go-to. So not that Jones isn't, but you still kind of got the Dillon split in the backfield, and you know, the Packers offense has only been averaging about 18 points a game. So in that respect, I would have gone with ETN.
ETN there. Joe, what would you have done there?
Yeah. I feel like a douchebag saying it as he's got 90 yards at halftime. But, you know, I think Jeff's point, like with James Robinson out of there now, and he was trending up anyways, but I mean, he's so clearly the most talented player on that offense at this point in general. And then the Packers, and I don't know, like, I guess that question, what it really made me think about was, so with the Packers playing Buffalo today, assuming Buffalo is going to put their points up and the Packers are going to, I guess, have to pass and to win or try to catch up. I'm trying to think, does a passing game script for the Packers help Aaron Jones? Some weeks, yes, some weeks, no. I know he had a receiving touchdown last week. It's hard to sit Aaron Jones for sure, but I think Etienne was the play there. But I'm still kind of curious, like, what to do with Aaron Jones, like even in a DFS scenario later on today. Like, is a passing game script good for Jones? Probably a little better than Dillon. I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
I mean, it's a lot better than Dillon. Passing game script wouldn't favor Dillon much. Dillon's usage has gone down drastically week after week because his like what he's shown on the field has gone down week over week. So, I mean, I think passing game script plays into what Aaron Jones does best, you know, receiving out of the backfield. And honestly, Buffalo's run defense is very good, but pass catching backs can get something from them. So all of that plays in favor. But I mean, obviously Etienne's doing what he's doing before half. So, you know, it's hard to go back now and say, well, I'd start Jones. I'd be interested to see who you're playing other than those two in order to ignore, you know, somebody like Aaron Jones or Travis Etienne at this point.
Yeah, I like that question a lot. Like, is it a single RB or something to that situation? George, what's your take on this?
So this is a very good question because I had a dilemma this past a week ago. I was in trade talks trying to acquire Devontae Adams, and the guy I was trading with absolutely wanted me to throw an ETN, and I told him no. The best I could give him is Aaron Jones. So it I would have looked at the matchups knowing that Aaron Rodgers and the Packers have been playing like crap. Knowing that the Bills are the number 2 defense against running backs in the NFL. They're coming off their bye week. I absolutely – and Jacksonville just shipped off James Robinson to make clear cut that ETN is the starter there. I 100% would have gone with ETN in this situation.
I like it. So that's almost a clean sweep besides myself for ETN. So hopefully that's the guy you went with right there. And hopefully I'm also right about Aaron Jones. Hey, Joe, do you got an injury report for us? Who do we got sitting out today?
Yeah, a lot of it came through the pike yesterday. I'll tell you the most interesting thing to me, and we were just talking about it 12 hours ago on Dash of DFS. It's now trending that both Seattle wideouts are now looking like they're going to play Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. It wasn't looking that way for most of the week, but as of right now, it looks like they'll both give it a go. There's speculation that Metcalf could be on a snap count, but they're leaning towards playing. AJ Green's going to play this week, it looks like. It's more trade. You know, there's Kareem Hunt trade rumors. Brandon Cooks, a lot of trade rumors there. Cam Akers. Ramen Noodle's going to play this week, it looks like. But, and, you know, Lazard, it looks like, is doubtful. That's an interesting one. Like, no Cobb. It looks like no Lazard. So, like, is this a week where you give Christian Watson a flyer, maybe in a DFS scenario or something? You know, as we were talking last night, Mikey, even with the injuries, you know, James Conner's out. So it's another Eno Benjamin week. Obviously, we have no Zeke Elliott today. So it's a Tony Pollard week. Hubbard's out. So Deonta Foreman, who already went for 100 last week, he's got that job all by himself this week. What's his name in Atlanta? Algier.
Algier.
Tyler
Yeah.
Algier.
He's getting more and more carries each week. David Nwoko is out, if anybody's ever heard of him before. So, even like a Harrison Bryant play, cheap DFS, whatever it may be, or if you're, filling in a tight end bye week. So a lot of injuries for the week. It's been quiet this morning, though.
Let me ask everybody but George, because I'm playing George and I have this question. So I've got one spot that I can make room here, and I've got Deonta Foreman or Eno Benjamin.
Oof.
And, both had big games last week. I like Arizona's offense better than I like Carolina's offense. They're playing Minnesota. George and I talked just before the show started about Deonta Foreman playing against the Falcons, who over the last 3 weeks have only given up 65 yards on the ground. So, and that's probably just because everybody can pass on him. So I'm leaning Eno Benjamin, but what are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I've got Benjamin in a couple leagues. I think if it's a PPR, I think he's a little more lethal in the passing game than Foreman is. Foreman, it was nice. He had the 100 yards last week, especially with Hubbard playing. But even if he had 100, if he doesn't get into the end zone, Benjamin got into the end zone last week. He had some catches. He's going to be the number one back. That should be the higher scoring game in general. So I think Benjamin's the way to go there, but it's a good one.
Yeah, I think I like Benjamin here too. I don't really like Carolina offense that much to where now I do feel like he's got more talent. I really do, but I just don't like the offensive opportunity. I feel like that's going to be a team that's got to play from behind constantly. They're going to be playing from behind this season. So for me, I'm also leaning Benjamin here.
What's tough is I don't see them playing from so far behind against Atlanta, but I get your point stands. Sorry, Jeff.
That's okay. I would agree with the guys. I mean, I took Atlanta's defense this week in DFS just because I think last week with Carolina was an anomaly. I'd have to go with the Arizona offense more so than Carolina, so I'd lean that way with the fellas too.
Okay, so clean sweep, and that's who I have in currently. It'll probably change 20 times before the game starts.
I know all too well how that goes. Nate, good morning, man. Good to see you out there. This is our man, Nate. He said, are you worried about Kareem Hunt being traded before Monday night? George, we're going to let you start off with this one. Just kidding. George isn't there. Jeff, go ahead.
This is an interesting question. Even if he is, would you be starting him? I'm just kind of curious as to why the question is even being asked. I mean, I don't think it's the guy who would take a flyer on regardless. So I'm just, and here we go with the freaking scarecrow again. So anyhow, no, I'm distracted.
I
Take it away,
played
Mikey.
the scarecrow before I played Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys think.
I want Paul Bearer with an urn to pop out next to the scarecrow.
Yes, where's the pallbearer at with the urn? Scarecrow, what is your take on this? Who do you are you worried about Kareem Hunt getting traded or getting killed? No,
he's a man of many words.
All right, so I'll take over. So Nate says he has to start either Kareem Hunt or Mooney. At this point, I'm probably playing Mooney. Mooney's getting 5 passes, 60 yards in a PPR. It's a safe 11-point floor. They're throwing it his way. Now, I'm still not a fan of that. Obviously not a fan of that Chicago Bears starting offense. But if I had to choose between Mooney and Kareem Hunt, who's in talks to be traded, I think even if he doesn't get traded, they're going to keep his usage low because they don't get anything if he gets hurt. So
right.
Nick Chubb's playing well. Like I think I play Mooney and or look at my waiver wire.
Yeah, I agree on Mooney. And just that question in general, if I was a Kareem Hunt owner, I'd want him to be traded. I mean, what is he really doing for you now? What I want is him to be traded where he becomes the number one running back and he doesn't have somebody nearly as good as Nick Chubb, competing and taking all the carries. So I'm rooting for Hunt to be traded if I'm a Hunt owner.
Well, so let's speak to that. Where do you think he goes where he's number one?
Denver.
You know what? He doesn't even have to be number number one. If he's in a 50-50 timeshare, he's in a way better position than he is playing with Nick Chubb.
Well, okay, so so Mike quickly brought up Denver as he'd be the number one, which is probably true. But Denver's offense is stagnant and terrible. So like, is Kareem Hunt in Denver? Like, does that excite you at all if he goes to a place like Denver?
No.
Yes.
Kareem,
They're not a running back. They're not a running back away from being a good offense again. So
That's all they're missing, Jason. They wouldn't pay that much for a quarterback if he wasn't great.
Listen.
Let me give you the Arizona Cardinals would be a great destination.
Okay.
I'll give you, believe it or not, Buffalo Bills would be a great destination, even though they don't necessarily use their running backs. He would be a huge upgrade over Devin Singletary. Miami would be a great destination. Atlanta would be a great destination. You don't think Atlanta would be good?
So I think Atlanta. Well, here's the thing. I think Atlanta would be good in the usage amount. He'd get a lot of usage because that's all they do is run. But they're a terrible offense with a bad offensive line. So
look how bad Christian McCaffrey's teams were in North Carolina.
What about the Rams?
That's because hold on. That's because they threw it to him a ton.
So and they can still throw it to
Marcus Mariota's averaging 12 passes per game. That's not going to give Kareem Hunt fantasy points. That's what I'm saying. Like, yes, in Carolina, he was great. He caught 10 balls a game. That's not happening in Atlanta. So, like, it's not apples to oranges. Now, the Rams are a decent idea there. I'd be like,
no, because he'd be in a full-blown timeshare there.
Well,
but I think
with
Jason's
guys, he's
point, he's going to be in a timeshare pretty much
there is a spot where he's going to be a bell cow. Yeah. That's a fact. Like, wherever he goes, especially because it's going to take him a couple of weeks to learn the offense, learn his pass protections. It's going to take time anyway. So fantasy weeks ticking off over and over again. And by the time he gets there, he's going to be sharing with the established guys. They're not just going to give him a bell cow role. He's a good running back, but we haven't seen him in that role since he kicked that chick in Kansas City.
The bottom line is he was way too highly ranked going into this fantasy season, purely fantasy perspective. Like, people taking him like they were going to flex him all year long. I don't know. I found that to be unrealistic. As talented as he is, being behind Chubb is being behind Chubb. And I think he was just overvalued realistically.
Well, that was because he did it last year, and it was a short sample size besides when he got hurt, but he was a top 10 back last year when he played. So he was worth taking a flyer on pretty late in draft. And what was it, 8th, 9th round? Especially for those guys that were 0 RB. He's like their hero last year when healthy. So like, I didn't mind people having the idea that he could play because he showed he could do it behind Chubb. It's just, I don't know that there's a great landing spot that's desperately just needing one running back and not going to utilize anybody else out there.
I agree completely. We also have our man Steve checking in, and Steve says he is a T2T fanatic. Make sure if you guys are on there, you get in there with the I am a T2T fanatic, and a way to get in touch with you. Uncle Steve knows he doesn't have to leave that anymore because he's been entered like 1,000 times. Make that 1,001. He also says Curtis Samuel or AJ Dillon, quarter point PPR. George, lead us off.
Quarter point PPR. Going up against the Buffalo Bills, coming off a bye week, his usage has been down almost every week since week 1. I would be fading AJ Dillon at this point. I would go Curtis Samuel.
I like it. Jason, what do you say here?
Well, so AJ Dillon last week had 4 attempts. I could actually see Curtis Samuel getting more than that on the ground. And last week was against the Commanders with only 4 attempts. So I am going to go Curtis Samuel here.
I like Curtis Samuel. Joe?
Yep. Everything they just said. Samuel for sure.
Samuel for sure. We knew you were going to go with Samuel. That's why I didn't lead off with you. What about you, Jeff?
I'll make it unanimous. This one really needs no explanation. Samuel, you can't go Dillon with anything at this point.
I like it. I agree with that as well. For me, it's also going to be Curtis Samuel. AJ Dillon has just been horribly disappointing. That said, it'll probably be a good week for him. They had to turn something around there in Green Bay. And I keep saying they're going to start relying on that running game a little bit more, and we'll see. Ryan H says, hi, what's up, dude? How we doing? We got pick 2, Standard League, Samuel, Ayuk, Dubs, or Goodwin. Why don't you go ahead and lead us off on this one, Joe?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I think Ayuk for sure. I don't think I'd be shocked if anybody didn't choose Ayuk with no Debo today. The second one's interesting. You know, I sound like a broken record from last night. I was rooting, not for injury per se, but rooting for Metcalf or Lockett to be out so Goodwin could be really relevant from a DFS perspective or a league perspective, whatever it is. But realistically, if those top 2 wideouts are playing, and with Lazard probably being out, with Cobb already out, Dobbs, and they're gonna have to throw. I guess safest is Ayuk and Samuel. But I wonder about Dobbs out there with Green Bay. They're gonna have to freaking chuck it at least the whole. You would imagine the whole second half, and they're wounded there. So I want to be a little creative and go Ayuk and Dobbs.
He definitely threw you an opposite of a dub last week. If you played,
that's true.
If you played the guy, he got you a 0.0. So I agree. I don't know about you guys, but I heard that he was rooting for some injuries there. He was like wanting them to happen, I think is what he just said, like kind of in a roundabout way. What do you say here, Jason? What do you think? Who are you starting here too?
I'm probably going Samuel and Ayuk. Ayuk, you have to. He's caught a bunch of passes. I know this isn't PPR. He's getting 11 targets over the last 2 weeks. He got 11 each week. And again, without Debo, it's just going up. And then you have to go Samuel. The Falcons are just, I don't know. It's not the Falcons, but anyway, the Samuel, he's running, he's catching, he's touchdowns 2 weeks ago. He got 2 of them. I think I'm going to go Samuel. Dobbs is probably going to drop more passes than he catches again this week. That's the tough part. And then at what point does Aaron Rodgers I know he has to throw it to somebody, but at what point does he just stop having faith in throwing the ball that direction? So I am
just
going
start throwing it in the back end of the lineman, just standing there like.
I mean, if the results are the same, why not?
Right. Why waste your arm energy? Keep that stuff for long term. Jeff, who do you got right here?
I can absolutely agree with Ayuk for all the points that were brought up. I'm not trusting Dobbs going up against that Buffalo defense in Buffalo, and for the reasons Joe gave, I'm straying away from Goodwin. Samuel, the Taylor Heineke factor is interesting with Samuel to see. I don't know if he's yet to be a better passer than Carson Wentz, but they certainly like him in Washington, even though this is in Indianapolis. I'll go Ayuk and Samuel.
I feel like they should start Wentz in Indianapolis because I feel like he's the guy that you want in there in a revenge game. What about you, George? Who do you got starting right here?
So my one concern I have with Dobbs is Aaron Rodgers is going to throw a pass to him. He's going to drop it. And then the minute he drops it, like Aaron Rodgers is just not going to target him again for the game.
It's very realistic.
What's that?
It's very realistic.
Oh, absolutely. Like Rodgers doesn't tolerate rookies, wide receivers as it is. And then now you're talking about what rookie wide receivers who can't catch the ball and just drops them. Like that would be my concern with Dobbs. So I would be leaning more towards Curtis Samuel, who's been more involved in that offense. And I would also definitely go with Ayuk for all the other reasons everybody else mentioned.
Excellent. Yeah. And so for me, I feel like I'm going to be going Ayuk and Samuel as well. Just because I feel like, like we were just saying, like we have the opportunity there for these guys. We've seen it with Ayuk a whole lot more. Samuel, yes, we do still have to wait to see how he reacts with this new quarterback situation, things like that. But it did seem like they were trying to get it involved. And I feel like if I remember right, because I was watching it, I feel like they just missed a touchdown between the two of them. I think he just missed them out of the 1 yard line. So, I mean, like, that's a guy that I don't mind getting in there and trying that one out. And we got our man, Bobby Trees, checking in. What's happening, Bobby? How's it going? Definitely good to see you. We got a question here from Sleeper. It's Tsunami05 says, T.J. Hawkinson or Tyler Higbee today, Robert Woods or Van Jefferson? And we'll go ahead and let you lead this one off. Let's go, Jeff, with you. Go ahead and lead us off with the tight end, and then we'll circle back and we'll have Jason lead us off with the Woods or Van Jefferson one.
Okay. I mean, we talked about it last night. A lot of us in our DFS kind of stack game are looking at that Miami-Detroit game. To me, it's a no-brainer with Hawkinson. I think Detroit's going to have to keep up. I still think it'll be a high-scoring game. Detroit's going to have to keep up, and Hawkinson is a main target there. So I take Hawkinson over Higbee. The other ones we can get to after that.
Excellent. What about you, Joe? Who do you take right here?
Yeah, Hawkinson. I will just say, though, to that whole trade point, there's Hawkinson trade rumors, too. So if you're squeamish on playing somebody today that you feel like is going to get moved, you might want to fade Hawkinson. I don't know how that works in football. Like, basketball, they'll yank somebody at freaking halftime and tell them, like, you just got traded after they're, sweating after 13 minutes playing for the old team. I'm not sure how that works. In the NFL, I feel like more trades are just becoming a little more commonplace now in the NFL. So, not sure how that would work, but it's Hawkinson for sure is the better play unless you're squeamish because of the trade rumors.
I agree. I actually think that I like now I'm not too worried about too many guys getting traded today. I feel like that's going to be something that happens Monday, Tuesday. I feel like you've got a lot of teams right now that are just seeing exactly how they're going to shape up, how things are going to go long term. I feel like Denver, like I've heard a lot of people say Denver is going to be a vulture field if they lose this football game, right? Like it's going to be every man for himself. They're going to pick the pieces of what could be a future organization and cut it as a loss as far as Russell Wilson goes. So, I mean, like, I think that we see a lot of these things happen after the week, so I'm not too worried about it. But I do like Hawkinson a lot. George, what do you think on that first one there?
So I'm going Tyler Higbee here. He has just been super consistent week in, week out for the Rams. Matthew Stafford's got googly eyes for two people, Tyler Higbee and Cooper Kupp, and that's basically the only two people he's passing the ball to. As much as I like TJ Hawkinson and I like his matchup against the Dolphins, I'm going to go with Higbee. Higbee he's been safe week in, week out, where Hawkinson has not been, the Hawkinson that you thought you were getting when you drafted him.
I like that. And Jason, go ahead and end this one on this one and go ahead and start us on that next one. Do it. Huh.
Okay. So, it's going to be 3-2. You guys have picked Hawkinson. George and I are picking Higbee. And the reason I'm taking Higbee is I think Higbee's what we all thought Dalton Schultz might be, where he's getting between 5 to 10 receptions a week. Maybe no touchdowns, but plenty of yards. And like George said, he's getting hyper targeted, and he's a relief valve. Now that particularly comes into play against the 49ers today, a good defense, and Stafford's going to have to get rid of the ball, which leads me into the next one, why I'm scared to play Van Jefferson coming off the injury. Now I do think coming off the injury, if he wasn't healthy, he wouldn't be playing. I'm actually going to say Van Jefferson, not because I think he's a boom bust play, right? Like I think he gets a long touchdown or nothing. But what we've seen out of Robert Woods isn't good enough to start, and we haven't seen anything out of Jefferson. And I'll take, at this point of the season, I'm going to take a shot on a long touchdown versus Robert Woods suddenly with Malik Willis, who's not a prolific passer, who's going to run and scramble a lot more than most quarterbacks. I'm not all of a sudden going to think Robert Woods is going to become a guy under that.
I like it. I actually agree with that 100%. It's Van Jefferson for me. George, what do you think on this one?
I'm going Robert Woods. Van Jefferson, his first game back from an injury, he's going to be probably the third guy, maybe even the fourth guy, really, in the passing offense on that team, behind Kupp. Yes, behind I can't even think of his name.
Allen Robinson.
Yes, thank you. And behind Tyler Higbee. I don't want to invest all of my assets into the the Rams passing game. So if I already said Tyler Higbee for the tight end, which I do like, there's no way I'm going to double down and go with Van Jefferson here, especially up against the 49ers and their defense. Give me Robert Woods with the unknown of Malik Willis at quarterback.
And Jeff, that brings it back to you.
Well, I hate that this person is put in this position because it's not enviable, that's for sure. But I'll say I trust Robert Woods up against Houston more than I trust Van Jefferson against the 49ers, and I'll leave it at that.
Hey, real quick, Burks is inactive, so Woods is like literally the number one wide out there today, right?
Yeah, he's been inactive for like the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're still getting, and I guess maybe it's a little bit on me because it's still getting 7 points, which is, I said, hey, a floor for Mooney of 10 or 11 is good. You know, he's three receptions, 26 yards last week, 4 for 37, 4 for 30. Like, he's getting 4 receptions a game. He's giving you like between 7 and 10 points. Like, it's a floor. You know, if that's what you're looking for, it's a floor.
I definitely don't mind that. And then Joe, did you have an in particular? Did you think it's going to be Woods or Van Jefferson here?
I think I'd rather fucking eat cement than answer the question. Yeah, it's a really tough one. I don't know. I guess I would probably go Robert Woods because he's number one, and maybe the QB change is some sort of spark there for them for 1 week anyway. You know, again, versus Van Jefferson, who you don't even know how many snaps he's going to get.
I like it. We'll go with our man Bobby Trees again. He says Geno versus the Giants or Danny Dimes at Seattle. George, go ahead and lead us off here.
I'm concerned with Geno's weapon, right? Like, we really don't know what's going on with DK Metcalf. Is he actually healthy? Is he going to play the whole game? Is he nothing more than a decoy, which is what I feel he'll end up being? Does he even play, even though they said like he's trending to play, which most players who get that injury he has do not play. So I'm just really concerned about the weapons. Seattle's defense is nothing to be afraid of. Even though Jason's got him going against me in our home league, I like the play of Danny Dimes this week. I'm going to go with Danny Dimes.
All right, and Jeff, who you got?
I'm loving me some Danny drops these days, more so than Geno. He does a lot on his feet. Not that Geno is immobile, but it seems like Jones could get you anywhere from 50 to 100 yards on his feet in one game and might run one in. So I like Jones better than Geno in this matchup.
All right, Joe, got 2 for Jones.
Yeah, this is tough. I think Joe. I think I'm kind of with George with healthy weapons. I probably go Geno, but with the question marks there and the fact that Danny Dimes does get potentially in the end zone with his legs or 40, 50, 60 rushing yards with his legs, I am going to go Danny Dimes, but you got to watch out because, you know, not that Tony was playing anyways, but they trade Tony as a Giant fan, and I'm excited about the rookie Robinson, but that is slim pickings. They lost a tight end now to an eye injury. That is really slim pickings as far as what Daniel Jones is throwing to. And I'm as excited as about anybody else about their 6-1 start. But if they've got to score some points any of these weeks, it's going to be tough treading.
Well, so I think for me, it boils down to who each team is playing. What you mentioned about Daniel Jones's weapons, you know, short of Saquon Barkley, obviously the pass catchers leave a lot to be desired, but trading Kadarius Toney doesn't help or hurt that because he hasn't been on the field. So what does that matter other than the fact that you're giving up on first round pick, super quick. A guy who seems super talented, but I think all of a sudden his hamstring is going to be feeling a whole lot better in Kansas City. It'll probably be something in the water in Kansas City, I think. But as far as I'll come right back to you, George. As far as this game goes, I like Danny Dimes against Seattle's defense more than I like Geno Smith against the Giants back end. And so that's why I'm going to go with Danny Dimes. George, go ahead.
So just a couple of stats to throw at you to further push the Danny Dimes. He's got 37 rushing yards in 4 of his last 5 games, including 3 games with at least 68 rushing yards. So the floor is very safe. The Seahawks allow an average of 20.7 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks. And this is the great lineup of Jimmy Garoppolo, Marcus Mariota, and Modern Warfare Kyler Murray have scored at least 6 points with just their rushing ability alone. So if you want to include Taysom Hill, who took snaps for the Saints in Week 5, Seattle has allowed 263 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks, which easily the most in the NFL.
I think that probably just speaks to who they've played so far, but you're not wrong. Like that
Jimmy
just
Garoppolo,
means
Marcus Mariota, and Taysom Hill on the ground.
Like
one thing we definitely know about Jimmy G is his rushing ability, right? Like that there's just
all right, so we all went Danny Dimes there.
I said to interrupt. I love me some George stats, man. He's always Johnny on the spot. I love that, baby.
You know what it is?
Real quick, Darren Waller has officially been ruled inactive for today.
So you know what that is, though? We're going to say that Mike, because he's not here, went Geno Smith, so that...
Yeah, he did.
He did. He wanted Geno. So that way we're right either way. All right, next question.
Mike said check your waiver wires for Russell Wilson.
There you go. In a standard league, by the way, Jerry Jeudy scored, but Russell Wilson didn't pass the ball. It was a rush. So
yes.
that's
they
how
called that a rush?
Yeah. Well, at least in the stat line that I was looking at earlier, it may have changed.
I saw it. I wasn't sure.
The sleeper announcement came as a Jerry Jeudy 6-yard rush. So maybe they're wrong, but all right. So in a standard, hey Chad, in for quarterbacks, it does not matter standard or PPR, but Goff or Dalton, unless one of these guys catches a pass, which I guess Dalton could do because Hill could throw him the ball. But Goff or Dalton, guys. We're going to start with George.
Come back to me.
Okay, we're going to start with Jeff because George is looking at stats.
This is an interesting one, and as odd as it is, I'm going to have to lean Dalton just because of the weapons. He's not that Goff doesn't have weapons, and that he had a very hot start, but Goff has fallen off. I get it. Detroit's going to have to score some points, and there's a high over/under in that game. But for whatever reason, I mean, the Raiders' passing game or passing defense is not the greatest. I'm feeling better about Dalton in this one than Goff. What do you guys think?
Well, George, are you ready, or do you want me to go to Joe? All right,
no,
George.
I'm ready. So I like both of these quarterbacks, but I'm going to go with the red rifle here. Mostly based upon the matchup. Like the Raiders are last against opposing quarterbacks. The Raiders have allowed every quarterback this season in 6 point per passing touchdowns. Every single quarterback they've faced has scored 20 plus points on them. Not one has been under 20 points. Every single one. They're the only team in the league that has allowed that many fantasy points to quarterbacks. And they allow an average of 27.8 points per game. I feel like this game is either going to be the one that cements Andy Dalton as the starter for the rest of the season for the Saints, if they go out and they win and he plays good, or if he goes out and plays bad, it will be Jameis next week because Winston right now is healthy, but they've got him listed as the backup. So I feel like this is a prove-it game for Andy Dalton. It's an absolute great matchup for Andy Dalton, so I'm going to go with him. But I do like Jared Goff as well.
So I'm going to kick it to Joe, but I'm also going to ask, have we had any news on Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Let's
Joe?
see. Yeah, I'm looking. He's still listed as questionable as of 8 a.m. I don't see anything new on him yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything new on him either.
So with saying that, Joe, who are you taking?
Yeah, and I was wondering that myself. This is really tough because, I mean, no Landry, no Thomas, and I know that they've been playing without those guys anyways for the Saints, but it's like Olave and Smith and Callaway, I think, are the top 3 wideouts there. Goff, Swift is back. We do know that for sure today. I feel like, I'm playing the Miami defense too in DFS, but I think Detroit's going to score some points. I think they're going to turn the ball over too. I'm going to roll with Goff on this one. At home, I feel like they're going to lose like 42-20, but I think that 20 is going to probably be a touchdown or two from Goff. He's probably going to end up with close to 300 yards. And I don't know, the Dalton thing with I don't know. I'm going to trust Goff to give me 20 points. I think he's got a better shot than Dalton. I'll go Goff.
So I am going to tie this and make Mike break the tie because I'm also going to say Goff. As long as Amon-Ra is playing, and we should know that before the. I mean, obviously we should know that and be able to set our lineups. If Amon-Ra is playing, I'm playing Goff. If he's not, I'm playing Dalton. I saw that he was trending towards playing, but that was late yesterday, so I don't know if that's still staying that way. If he plays, I'm playing Goff against Miami's D. Miami's given up a lot against opposing quarterbacks. Pittsburgh Steelers notwithstanding. So for me, it's Goff. And Mike, you got to break the tie. It's 2-2. By the way, you took Geno Smith in the last question, just so you know.
Yeah, I'd rather have Danny Dimes. I think I'd rather have Danny Dimes by an edge on that one.
You already took Geno. Sorry,
but I already took Geno Smith, so I'm good with that. For me, it's Goff. It's not even really that big of a margin. Dalton is good, but I don't think he's that good. I don't think there's a whole lot of weapons or opportunity there. Honestly, I don't really even care if Amon-Ra's in or out today. I'm still going to be starting Goff on that one as well, and it's going to be a bonus if I see Amon-Ra out there, but there's enough guys on that team that he can throw the ball to, and I think this is going to be one of those high-scoring games. We talked about it last night as well, that we thought that was going to be a good one. And so we had that, and then we had our guy right here say, my bad, morning title. Oh, it was morning, man. You don't got to say morning. You just get right to the questions. That's what we're here for.
Hey, Mike, real quick. So I know I gave a case for Andy Dalton, but here's also the case for Jared Goff, because I do like Jared Goff as well. The Dolphins, as everybody knows, that's my team. We are down our number 2, number 3, and number 4 cornerbacks. And Xavier Howard is he's got 1 or 2 groin issues that have been affecting him all season, so he hasn't been great. The Dolphins have allowed 4 quarterbacks to score at least 21 points. Those quarterbacks were Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Kirk Cousins. So pretty decent quarterbacks. But if you're a bad quarterback, like if you're Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, and Kenny Pickett, you're not getting a whole lot of points. Those guys were all underneath 12 fantasy points per game. So it just really depends on how you view Jared Goff going up against the Dolphins. If you view him as a very good quarterback, then he'll probably put up some points. And I expect him to, because he's one of those guys that play better at home than on the road. His road games have been atrocious, but his home games have been very, very well. He's averaging 31 points per game at home in the 3 games that they've played so far this year. So I would still go Dalton. Like I said, I think he's got the more. Raiders have not allowed any team to score less than 20 points for their quarterbacks. So that's where I would go. But there is definitely the case to be made for Jared Goff. And I agree with everybody else that said they expect this to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game as well.
Yeah, it's not really even my respect to Goff as much as it is my respect to Tua and that offense, being able to outrun them. And so they'll just have to be playing a whole lot of catch-up to keep up in that game. So I like them. I like them both, but it's by quite a bit of a distance. It's Goff for me. Brandon says, good morning at the start. See how it's done, Chad? Do you see how it's done, Chad? I'm just kidding. Again, I don't care. Just get right to the questions, guys. We don't mind. It's always a good morning. It's Sunday. We love it. This is the day we wake up for. This is the day we work our butts off Monday through Friday to get here too. So unless you're a guy like me who's always working every single day, and if you're out there working right now, one love. I appreciate you. Is A.J. Dillon droppable for Hines? And should I not regret dropping him for Khalil Herbert? Man, are we at A.J. Dillon drop point? Jeff, answer this for me.
Another unenviable position. Yes, you should regret not dropping him for Khalil Herbert. But the task of picking Dillon or Hines, I'd have to say stick with Dillon simply because it seems to be going to him a little bit more with Jonathan Taylor back going again for the Colts. I don't know. This is impossible to answer, but I guess I'm leaning more towards Dillon than Hines, and possibly bad, I guess, is the answer. So,
Gotcha. What do you say, Joe?
I mean, I would probably keep Dillon around on my roster if possible, because, the fact of the matter is, as bleak as it is now for him, if Aaron Jones turns an ankle and he's out of the picture, then it's a whole new ball game. So I gotta believe on most of my teams, I think I could probably find somebody worse than Dillon to cut if I wanted to pick up Hines or anybody else. But I don't think we're to the point where we would drop Dillon yet, unless you really needed to.
I agree. I don't think I like the prospect of Hines enough where I'm dropping AJ Dillon for him. Khalil Herbert, maybe a different story, but even him, I like his path forward. If you don't have Singletary involved,
Montgomery.
What's that?
Montgomery.
Oh, yeah,
right?
sorry, Montgomery. Singletary. I don't know why I said Singletary right there. It's because I'm thinking of the Bears, and when you think of the Bears, you think of Singletary, but it's a completely different Singletary, right? Like, but yeah. So but Montgomery, yeah. But when he's out there, Khalil Herbert's kind of worthless. Where AJ Dillon, at least, in deep leagues like your 16, 18 team leagues, Dillon is still flexible. Even though you're getting tiny points from the guy, it's at least still points. So, that's a lot. There's a lot of guys who you're going to have on your roster in those deep leagues that aren't even going to do that. George, what do you think?
No, you're not dropping AJ Dillon for. And the only way I could see you wanting to do this is if you were in a situation where you absolutely needed to play Hines. Like, that's the only way I could see somebody dropping him. What is Hines's ceiling compared to AJ Dillon? Like, we've already seen JT miss games, and it was not Hines who was the effective running back. It was Jackson.
Well, that was because Hines got hurt on the first play and knocked out because of concussion.
But still, he's his ceiling compared to AJ Dillon is what?
Nothing. No, I wasn't going to argue your full point. I just wanted to give context there with Hines.
Yeah, I'm not dropping AJ Dillon for Hines unless I absolutely needed to play Hines this week. And should you regret not dropping him for Khalil Herbert? I don't know. If I had to pick which one I'd have, because they're both backup running backs, you could actually flex Khalil Herbert most weeks if you were in a pinch. Where right now you're not going to want to flex AJ Dillon at all. So maybe, but I still think I would rather have AJ Dillon.
I like it, Jason. What do you think there? Are you dropping?
Again, with George's point, only if you have to start somebody this week, but I don't drop AJ Dillon unless there's a starter available. Now, maybe I would have dropped him for somebody like Devonta Foreman or Benjamin a week ago, because those guys are starters, and if you need a starter, they're actually playing. But I don't start him for a backup, because right now you're looking for backups if something were to happen to Aaron Jones, and we've seen him go out of games or be out like for stretches of NFL seasons. AJ Dillon would be super valuable. And like to George's point, but in a different way, Hines isn't a bell cow back, so he would be sharing time with Jackson or who else did they have when JT and him were out? But not that I think he wouldn't have gotten some extra points. He was the starter, but like I said, he got hurt the first play, got a concussion, and then didn't play for the same two games JT didn't play. But he's not a bell cow back like I think Dillon would be without Aaron Jones. So the handcuff I'd rather have in this situation is Dillon.
I like it. Another Russell Wilson-less Broncos touchdown for those of you not watching.
Who scored?
Melvin Gordon.
Okay.
But the Judy touchdown looks like it was a receiving touchdown. According to ESPN, they have Wilson with a passing touchdown.
Yep.
Oh, controversy. I like it. Stat corrections. I love this kind of stuff. Starting the day off right on a Sunday morning. Oh, we got Joe Clark. Our man Joe knows. He's sitting there. He says, "Good morning, all. Amon-Ra or Tyler Boyd is my wide receiver too." And it's kind of funny because me and my girlfriend were talking about this a little bit ago, because she has Tyler Boyd on one of her teams, and she also has Jamar Chase on that same team, and it's been problematic this season as far as like not really getting Chase in there when he goes off, because you're leaving Chase in every single week, right? But when you have Tyler Boyd, he's kind of a hard guy to say this is going to be a week that he's going to get that 3 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown, or 3 catches for 67 yards and 2 touchdowns like he did, I think it was 2 weeks ago. But now this presents a different opportunity here where Tyler Boyd is going to be facing coverage that used to not be on him because you had guys like Jamar Chase, and now T. Higgins is going to be sucking up that number 1 coverage, and he's not even really 100%. So they may even slide their number 1 coverage over to Tyler Boyd. So I don't know. I feel like if Amon-Ra's on the field, I think they're confident in him playing. I'm playing Amon-Ra. Jason, you lifted your finger. Go ahead and start this one off.
So I'm a little worried about Amon-Ra since he's in it. We don't know if he's in or not, so we don't know what his health is or not. That said, with Tyler Boyd, I think there's a stat if he's played 12 games or so without either Higgins or Chase in the lineup over the last couple of years when they've both been on the team. He's been a wide receiver 3 in 2 of those games out of the 12, and a wide receiver 2 or better in the next 10. Like he has good games when he's the number 2 wide receiver. And then we obviously remember when he was the only guy there, he had very good games. So with that said, I probably run Tyler Boyd today, and I might be the odd man out because we had a great start of the season to Amon-Ra, but we haven't seen it in several weeks because of this injury, and I don't know that changes today.
I definitely don't mind that a bit either. Like I'm pretty close on the fence with both of these guys. They're both right there. I feel like they both have extremely high ceilings if they can get on the field. Joe, why don't you talk to me?
Yeah, I in seeing the questions come in, I was excited for this one and the next one that I'm looking at most, and Tyler Boyd for this one. Exactly what Jason just said. I love him when he gets to be one of the number 1 or 2 on the depth chart there, and with no Chase, he can play like a slot, and he can be that kind of security blanket. He can break big plays, and now he's going to get the snaps to potentially get the targets to go with it. So I love Boyd from a DFS perspective, and I think he's actually a little safer than Amon-Ra this week. So I would go Boyd here, and I'm excited about him this week. I think they're clicking. That offense in general is clicking. The Cleveland defense hasn't been great lately, and I expect Boyd to have a nice day.
I like it. George, what do you think?
So I think if Amon-Ra does play, I think there's a good chance, even though he's a little banged up and has got 1 or 2 groin injuries going on.
How many groins does he have?
Well, listen, Xavier Howard is a beast, and he was diagnosed with 2 groin injuries, so at least a minimum of 2. So I think there's a good chance that Xavier Howard will follow Amon-Ra St. Brown if he does play. I still expect Amon-Ra to have a good game if he does play, but I don't expect it to be what we've seen from him this year, even though I just got an alert that he is officially active for today's game. So Amon-Ra will play, which is what I kind of thought he would. I would go with Tyler Boyd. Week 6, Zach Taylor would need to be more involved in the game. Since week 6, he's had 15 targets for 14 catches, 221 yards, and a touchdown. So he's been tearing it up since week 6. Chase is, as we know, is out 4 to 6 weeks. They're playing the Cleveland Browns, who are the 17th best against the pass, so they're right in the middle of the pack. Jason already talked about how his finishes have been wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3. Historically, without either Chase or Higgins in the lineup. I would go with Tyler Boyd as my wide receiver 2.
I like it, and this is coming from George, who pulls his groin at least twice a day, and you see he always remains active. Jeff, what do you think right here?
As far as this is concerned, I guess as far as who I trust, excuse me, I trust Joe Burrow more so than I trust Jared Goff. So I'd have to go with Boyd as opposed to St. Brown simply because of the quarterback factor. And I think that Burrow's going to get his yardage no matter what. I'm not as confident in Goff, so I'm leaning Boyd on this one. And with that, fellas, I got a roll for today. Appreciate the time. We'll catch you guys next week.
Yep, excellent. Good luck on the car deal and all that fun stuff, and best of luck to you, my man. And have yourself a good rest of your weekend. Good luck today.
Thank you.
And Joe, you already told us on this one too, right? You already.
Yes, sir. I am Boyd.
Okay.
Oil can Boyd.
And it's okay. That's a different answer right there. And see, George, speaking of pulling groin, we got Chad Rones has another quick question. He says, standard flex position start: Pickens, London, Robbie Anderson. Or are we taking a chance with Hunt? Joe, I'm going to go ahead and let you lead this one off. Who do you got here to lead it off?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about Pickens this week specifically, and we talked about him last night too from a DFS perspective. Now it's a lot different because DFS wise, you're talking about spending $4,700, your least amount of salary. He's like your cheapest guy. So if he has some production, it's kind of like a bonus for you versus, actually putting him in your league lineup. But London started fast, but he's been pretty worthless the last few weeks. I'm not ready to do anything with Robbie Anderson yet. We've talked about, we exhausted Hunt earlier. I just don't feel like Hunt's got a lot of a high ceiling there with Chubb. So I feel like Pickens, they've got a horrible matchup, obviously, against the Eagles, but that also gives way to those trash fourth quarter touchdowns. And, and I'm sure that the Scarecrow would agree that George Carl Pickens would be the way to go this week.
I like it. I like Pickens a lot this week as well. I like the Pickens connection. I was like, it looked like the Scarecrow was on a boat there for a minute. Jason, what do you think right here?
I think I have to go Pickens. It looks like Pickett is targeting Pickens most often out of all the wide receivers. And, we talked a little bit earlier about Marcus Mariota only throwing the ball 10, 13 times a game. That's not going to get it done for Drake London and Robbie Anderson. It'd be nice if he took a step forward with a new offense, but I'm not going to believe it till I see it. So I think Pickens has the best shot of these three. Not awesome options. And look, I'd love to start Hunt. Normally I would start Hunt here, but if he's actually going to get traded, I think his usage is going to be real low, so he doesn't get hurt. So the Browns can actually get something for him. So for me, it's Pickens.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Trade deadline is Thursday, right?
Is it Thursday or Tuesday?
I thought Tuesday.
It's Tuesday because it's before the game Thursday night.
Okay. That makes more sense. Okay, so Tuesday is the trade deadline. So yeah, I would say I'm fading Hunt pretty heavy because it does sound like there's a whole lot of interest for him. A lot of people wanting to get him in there, and Scarecrow's all about that game too. Let's see here. We got our man Dustin Patreon. What's happening, my man? He says, morning, fellas. He says, should I start Henderson, B-Rob Jr., or Gallup at the flex, or should I bench Lockett due to injury and start two of those guys? Jason, take off. What do you got?
I'm probably going to start Brian Robinson as the flex, and I'm going to leave Lockett because he's been trending towards playing for a while, and with him trending towards playing all week and practicing, I think he's good to go. So for me, it would be Brian Robinson, which I'm not if you listen to me last week, I'm not a fan of that, but it's going to be Brian Robinson and Lockett. Henderson, I don't know about. Hasn't Henderson been hurt this week? He's been out with a flu, right?
I think so, yeah.
He's playing though, but yeah, I think you're right.
So they've been talking about, I forgot the name that's been thrown around out there. It's probably like a fourth string running back for the Rams. It's going to get a lot of play today, and I forgot his name now. It's not Malcolm Brown, but there is a guy.
Like Ronnie Riviera or something.
Yeah, something like it. Yeah. So and I probably should know that name, but sorry, I don't. And Ronnie Rivers. Okay.
That's his name.
Yeah.
Oh, it's close. Wow, that's not bad for pulling it out of my rear.
So with all that, Lockett and Robinson.
I actually agree with that, Joe.
Yep, same thing.
And George, what do you think?
I would do Henderson and Lockett.
See, and I'd like just to say once again, George pulls his groin, throws a little ice on it, and bam, he's right back on the show. It was like less than 2 minutes. So
is it me, or did it start with a little scarecrow sound there when George started talking? He almost forgot what voice to use. And the mystery has been solved.
The mystery is solved. Robert says, Bobby Tree says, with James Conner being out, Benjamin at the Vikings or DJ Moore at Atlanta in the flex, half PPR. Atlanta's down at starting corners, I believe. I don't even know if the starting corners knew that they were playing football this season for Atlanta, because they've been getting beat up even when they had the 1, 2, 3 out there. George, what do you think? Who are you starting on this one?
I feel like I would go with DJ Moore. He seemed to be incredibly involved in the offense last week. PJ Walker starting again. This is a big game for the Carolina Panthers. If they win, or if the Falcons win, really, whichever team wins, they're going to be number one team in the NFC South. So a lot riding on this game right now through 8 weeks. I would go back to the well with DJ Moore.
With his single touchdown, which is the only touchdown of that whole entire game, if I remember right. Jason, who do you got right here?
No, I'm going DJ Moore as well. I think he had 10 targets last week, made the most of them. Atlanta's secondary is worse than the Bucs secondary. I hate to rely on PJ Walker as my quarterback, but he's literally the only guy left there. It's that old Will Smith meme, walking into the house, looking around, and then kind of like it's empty. So I'm going TJ Moore, and it's not particularly close for me.
Wow. Okay. And what about you, Joe?
Wow. It's funny, Benjamin Moore, and then even add Foreman, and it kept on coming up for me DFS wise. And I ended up having all three of them in my two lineups combined because I wasn't sure who I liked the most. But in this one, and that was more of a battle between Moore and Foreman. I like Benjamin. I mean, the guy went for 20 plus last week. James Conner's out again. I don't see, he caught some balls. He was obviously the number one rushing option there. So I would go, I think it's close, but I would actually go Benjamin on this one. And I do think Moore is going to have closer to a game like last week than what he did previously. But I also think Benjamin's going to be pretty comparable to what he was last week too. So I would go Benjamin by a scarecrow nose hair.
DJ Moore had the opportunity last week. Once again, he also had the touchdown. I think you take away that touchdown, you see a completely different animal. I'm with you, Joe. I'm going to actually be starting the guy who give me the volume of the running back, give me the starting running back of a team that's playing against a team that likes to run the football. Kind of a game that you kind of want to speed up as well, because you're going to want to try to keep it out of each other's quarterbacks' hands and keep them out of their playmakers' hands. So for me, and for me, it's not particularly close. Like, I think DJ Moore had a standout game last week, but I think that was just a standout. So we kind of split on you right there. So Nate, what do you think right here? Make sure Nate pop in here and answer that question. Split that tie for us. It is not that one. It's half of us on Eno, half of us on DJ Moore. So we'll wait for Nate to pop his answer in there. He's a Toilets to Titles member too. So that's funny. Should I drop Gallup for any of the following? Josh Reynolds, Peoples Jones, Van Jefferson, Sammy Watkins, Christian Watson, Jeff Wilson, Dernis Johnson goes to jail. Dernis goes to jail. That's awesome. Goodwin is a drop option, half PPR. Goodness sakes, that's a whole lot to unpack right there, but I'm going to go ahead and let you unpack it first there, Joe. What do you got? Is Joe even still here? I can't see him because of this question.
Yeah, right. That's what happens. I'm 5'2". I can't succumb to a large question. I don't know. I mean, I think Gallup at some point in the year has some value, and realistically, he is the WR2 there in Dallas. We're talking, no People Jones, Jefferson. I mean, I kind of feel, not this week, I do feel like Van Jefferson has the opportunity to have one good game and pretty much be the second wide receiver there too. Like, are we really going to keep Allen Robinson ahead of him if Robinson does nothing and Jefferson has a game or two? So that makes me keep an eye on Jefferson. But other than that, no, I would probably stick with Gallup for now. Again, if a Seattle wideout was out today, I think Goodwin's the best start this week out of everything on that screen. But if Metcalf and Lockett play, I'd keep Gallup.
I like it. I actually agree with that. I would be keeping Gallup here, but it would be pretty close. I do like Van Jefferson. I like Josh Reynolds today, but I don't like him rest of season as much as I like the rest of these guys. Jason, what do you think?
I'd probably at this point drop Gallup and take a flyer on Dearness Johnson. We're talking about Hunt getting traded. Johnson has some good talent. They will start using him like they used Hunt last year if Hunt does get traded. And it's a quick flip. Like if Hunt doesn't get traded, then all of a sudden Dearness Johnson's not valuable and you can go pick up any one of these guys. I don't see Gallup having more value with the way he's played than, Peoples-Jones with Watson coming back, or like Van Jefferson, Sammy Watkins. But some of these guys are going to end up on or are going to be on the waiver wire even after this week. So I would drop Gallup for somebody like Dearness Johnson to take the flyer that Hunt gets traded. And then if that doesn't happen, just pick any of these guys up and you'll probably be just as happy as you've been holding Gallup this whole time.
Fair enough. That's actually a very good point. I do like Dearness Johnson if Hunt gets traded. How about you, George? What do you got here?
So I'm not a big fan of dropping Gallup.
Except you did it.
I did. I absolutely did. But I forget. Who did I pick up? Do you remember?
I do.
Who?
Go ahead. Kenneth Walker?
Who?
No, it wasn't Kenneth Walker. Was it for that one?
No, I forget who I dropped. Anyway, Jason and I talked about our home league. I did drop Michael Gallup, but then I went ahead and picked him right back up. If I drop him for anybody on this list, there's two names that stick out to me: Josh Reynolds and Dearness Johnson. Those are really the only two that I would consider dropping Michael Gallup for. If Goodwin is droppable, if you're not playing him this week, I would drop Goodwin for either one of those two options. Josh Reynolds quietly has had a very, very good season so far. In full point PPR, he's got 4 games over 12.5 points in full point PPR. He's got double-digit targets in 2 of the games so far this year. In 3 of the games this year, he's over 8+ targets. And it's just he's been sneaky good. The games where he doesn't get the heavy targets, he's scoring touchdowns. Like I said, of all the games this year, he's had 2 games under 12.5 points in PPR. He's a sneaky add. I like him. I've thought about adding him in the leagues I have him that he is available. I just don't have any depth on my bench that I would rather drop for him. I could go back and forth between him and Michael Gallup, but I like the upside with Michael Gallup slightly better. I would drop Goodwin for Reynolds or Dearness Johnson, though. I wouldn't drop Gallup.
Yeah, I'm definitely good with dropping Goodwin for Dearness Johnson on the speculation that we get that trade in this week. He also says 10-team PPR, one of these guys has to sit. Oh, my Atlanta. Stephon Diggs, no. Justin Jefferson, no. A.J. Brown, no. T. Higgins, no. Amon-Ra, no. So you're not sitting any of those guys. Make one of them squeeze over, and so they can both fit in the same spot. That's what you got to do right there. You got to make – that's why it's called a flex spot, Bobby Trees. So you can put 2 guys in there at the same time. Like, come on, man. No, but for me, I think I'm sitting – I can't sit the other guys. I got to sit Amon-Ra, especially with the questionable tag that he's going into the game for. Yes, who should I trade for an RB 1-for-1 wide receiver running back? I feel like if you're going to do it now, if you're going to do this, do it today and do T. Higgins. T. Higgins, before he gets out there and plays, he will get volume. You're going to hate to see him go. But if you're going to get a guy straight up 1-for-1 for a good running back, and right now is the time to strike with T. Higgins is before he plays, before he gets that cornerback 1 attention this week. What do you think, Joe?
I think you gave some really good life advice right there. I don't think I could say it any better. I would sit Amon-Ra today. And yeah, I would strike if you're going to try to flip this for a number 1 or number 2 RB. Higgins right now, value-wise, is probably the way to go because you probably don't want to trade those top 3.
Right, and you're not going to miss him because you got Diggs, Jefferson, and A.J. Brown. George, what do you got here?
Looking at his options, I agree. He needs to make a trade. If he needs a running back, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but outside of week 1, like AJ Brown hasn't been inspirational. Am I incorrect in thinking that?
He's had 2 good weeks, and the rest have been okay. Like, he hasn't killed you, but he hasn't been great.
Yeah.
Outside week 1, 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, I can't remember. With the bye, he had another big-ish game, but he hasn't been what you want from him.
So
if you're on the other side of this trade, though, are you giving up a better running back for Higgins or for Brown?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think you're giving up a better running back for AJ Brown based solely upon name value and the offense that he's in than you are for T. Higgins, knowing Chase is coming back and he's going eventually, and he'll be slotted back to the wide receiver 2, where going forward, we know for sure AJ Brown's the wide receiver 1 there.
So I think you can sell. So I think it depends on your league and who you're selling to, but I think you can absolutely sell both. So like, I wouldn't be opposed to selling either, depending on who you're trading to and what they want to hear. You can absolutely sell 4 to 6 weeks of T. Higgins as number 1 wide receiver is a great thing. So I think you can, and to Mike's point, do it now before the game starts, because you don't know if it's going to be Tyler Boyd and Higgins is still going to be just a number 2, or if it's going to be a split, just like with Chase and Higgins, and you don't know. So I think you can sell Higgins, but you can absolutely sell AJ Brown as the number 1 wide receiver on the number 1 team in the league, even though it and you definitely don't tell the guy you're trading this, AJ Brown disappears for large chunks of games. So, it'll start out great. You'll have 6 or 7 fantasy points right off the bat, and then you'll go to the 4th quarter with 6 or 7 fantasy points, and you feel like crap about it. So, I think you can trade either one of those guys for a number 1 wide receiver, and it's really going to depend on what you can sell to your league mates. But they both have sale value. Now, we say he's number 1 because he has more yards, but him and Devontae Smith have the same amount of receptions of 33. So, it's a 1A, 1B situation there for the Eagles as well. But let me ask this, and George is one of the better traders I know in fantasy football. What type of running back are you targeting with these guys?
Well, so prior to last week, I would have said I would have targeted like a Ken Walker. I thought he would have been a great, buy for AJ Brown last week. Like, I would have absolutely have rather had Ken Walker than AJ Brown. Knowing that he went for 168 and a couple touchdowns last week, I think that's going to be a little bit harder of a sell. Maybe you can still go get a Travis Etienne
next week because he's playing.
What about Jonathan Taylor?
You might be able to get a Jonathan Taylor, like buying.
Because of how low he's played this whole entire season. I feel like Jonathan Taylor might be at his lowest value that you'll ever get Jonathan Taylor on. I think I'm going to go try to make a move, unless you already have Jonathan Taylor on your team there. I think that's who I'm going to go try to target with these guys.
He suggested Dameon Pierce in the chat, and I actually thought that's a pretty fair deal.
That's a pretty
Pierce
fair
for
one,
Higgins.
too. I like Dameon Pierce here, too, and I like Dameon Pierce rest of the season. I mean, he just keeps proving that this guy can run 100 yards, even on a crappy team that throws the ball all the time. He's still – did you guys see that one play where he breaks like 18 tackles before he gets tackled at the 1? My good God, I love watching that guy run the football. For sure. Okay, so he says, sorry about the rapid fire, but he's only about ready to listen. Hey, we get it, man. That's fine. We're glad you got the questions in there. Nate Wallen says he probably missed this, but we're firing up Van Jefferson everywhere, right? I mean, coming off of a bye week, I do like his odds. I do like what I'm seeing out of that team. Does anybody hesitant about starting Van Jefferson today? I don't really like starting guys off of injury.
I mean, go ahead, Joe.
No, you take it. You got it.
I mean, it really depends on your options, right? Like, I think he's a boom bust player. He could very well bust out against the 49ers. That passing offense hasn't been all that spectacular. George mentioned before, it looks like Stafford only has eyes for Kupp and Higbee. So does that change with Van Jefferson? Somebody familiar to him on the field? Maybe. But you're really just hoping for a long pass, a long touchdown. So it depends. Like, for me, I would play him over, like we said earlier, Robert Woods. But that doesn't mean I'd play him over someone like Ayuk or some of the lower tier wide receivers So it really depends. Starting him everywhere, no. Starting him somewhere, yes.
Gotcha. In the instances where I really need to start a receiver, I definitely agree with that. Like, but again, I just don't like coming off of injury with receivers. It's never fun. Joe, you had something to say there?
No, you guys got it. I think if anything, Jefferson, maybe you take a shot with him. DFS, he's low salary play, but in a line, I'd rather. I do think he's got a chance to really become the second best wide out there for the rest of this year, but I would have to see it before I'm actually starting him over another viable option from a lineup.
Yeah, especially it looks like they're not making a play towards OBJ either. So for sure, I think that's definitely. It kind of looks like George has a man bun right now.
It does. There are rumors that the Rams are going to try to trade for Brandon Cooks again.
Yeah.
So
that'd be kind of cool. A lot of people seem like they're in that Brandon Cooks market, and I hope he goes to a team he hasn't played for yet, because I think he's like going for some kind of record. They're like, oh, I guess I'll go be a Raider for a couple weeks.
I don't think he'll get a first-round pick this time, though.
So
I agree.
I'm looking at the Fantasy Pros consensus rankings for Van Jefferson right now, and I'm telling you, they are extremely low on Van Jefferson. This is hard to believe, but they have him ranked number 73 overall as far as wide receivers. So while I agree with Joe, maybe a very, very cheap DFS play going against the 49ers, it's not somebody I want to throw out there coming back from his injury, playing in San Francisco. I don't want to do it. The guys that they have rated above Van Jefferson is the who's who of all-star players. E.J. Hamler, Braxton Berrios, Jawan Jennings, Khalif Raymond, Robbie Anderson, Nick Westbrook Akina, KJ Osborne, Terrence Marshall, Traquan Smith. Need I go on? Like, that is garbage. You are not starting Van Jefferson this week. And as I say that, he'll go for 100 and a touchdown. But you're not
right.
starting.
And honestly, I would start him over every single one of those guys. But,
No, come on, Jason. We
I'd
both,
start Traquan Smith over him today.
Jason, we both know you're going to start Alameda Zacharias against Carolina before you start Van Jefferson. And Zacharias is rated higher. He's number 61.
I love it. Picking targets two people who's playing George Pickens and the other team. Bobby Tree says DST to start. Cowboys versus the Bears. Eagles versus the Steelers. Man, the Eagles defense to me has been looking like they're the real deal. I picked them up in a league. I starting them in my DFS. They're my DFS start of the week. If anybody's been paying attention to that, I've had the number one starting defense pegged every single week since week one. So this week for me, it's the Eagles defense against the Steelers. Joe, you're our other DFS guy. DST to me is as close as it gets. DST streaming is daily fantasy, almost just right to a T. So who do you got this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think these are pretty much the top two of at least like that main slate of games. You should be good either way. I feel like, and I like Kenny Pickett long term. I feel like he might be a little more prone to turnovers because they're more willing to throw the ball around than the Bears seem to be. Although Fields is so, I guess I go. And the Eagles just traded for Robert Quinn, and he is playing today too. So the rich get richer from a defensive talent perspective there in Philadelphia too. So I think I will go Philadelphia, but I don't think I think you're in a good spot either way in this one.
Yeah, one of those situations where you can't really lose as far as which one you put in. George, who are you putting in right here?
I'm going to Eagles. It's not particularly close. I'm going to take Nate's line and agree with it. Kenny Pickett targets two people, George Pickens and the other team. So I listen, Pickett had 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions against Miami, who was running out. I mean, they literally asked me and Jason if we were interested in playing cornerback for that evening. Unfortunately, we couldn't make the drive down there, else we would have been in the starting lineup.
Well, don't act like you're exclusive. They were asking everybody who's leaving public.
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
They set up a booth like they were the Girl Scouts.
All right, exactly. Like, please play with us.
Exactly. In Pittsburgh, they changed the name of turnovers to Kenny Pickett's. So, like when you go to the store and you want you go to Arby's, you have to ask for the Kenny Pickett if you want the fluffy pastry with the cream. So, yeah, go with the Eagles.
Eagles. Jason, what do you got here?
I'm going to go ahead and say, well, I mean, look, if it's 1 point per sack, I probably go with the Cowboys because I think the Cowboys defense is going to sack Fields so many times it doesn't matter how many turnovers Pickett has. But I do like Nate's giving out Pickett throws interceptions like he's Oprah giving out Christmas presents line.
Yep.
And that almost swayed me. But again, if it's a point per sack, I'm probably going to take Michael Parsons to outscore the Eagles defense in sacks. So
I think I'm looking it up now, but I think the Eagles actually lead the league in sacks, and they've had their bye week, and they still lead the league.
Yeah. Okay. So Eagles it is. It's going to be a clean sweep.
Guys, I'm jetting.
All right. Thank you,
Happy
Joe.
week 8.
Man, you have a good afternoon, and you take care and win us some money today.
Let's go.
And make sure you guys are watching us on Dash of DFS on Saturday nights to get that bag.
Well done on the Scarecrow. I don't know how I clammed up last night and said nothing. I regretted it the rest of the show, but very, very well. So I'm so glad it was you too, real quick. Did you hear me at the end of last night? I made a Fiend Bray Wyatt Uncle Howdy reference to that.
Nice.
So you would have got that. So I'll see you guys.
Fantastic.
All right, take it easy, buddy. All right, then let's see. We got another one here. Damian Price. Yeah, Damian Pierce for Higgins. I think Damian Pierce for Higgins is a fair deal there. Dude, we get all okay. Here we go. We got desperation out of Mini Jordan. He says, Lost Brees Hall. We desperately need a running back this week. Full PPR. Who should we pick up? Edmonds, Darrell Williams, Huntley, P. Ryan, Gainwell, Blackseer, or Warren. My good God, man, that is rough. Jason, I like rough. Let's see what you got here, bud.
You like it rough, huh? Oh man, it's between Edmonds and P. Ryan for me. I mean, I guess I'm gonna say Chase Edmonds because he does get on the field everyone. I mean, man, they're both gross. No, you know what? Kenneth Gainwell may score a touchdown. I'm just gonna say Kenneth Gainwell and say he could possibly score a touchdown because they have been giving it to a bunch of different backs in that backfield.
I like it, George. What do you think?
Exactly.
He's desperate. I'm going to go with Chase Edmonds. He's at least going to get on the field. He's going to get
Detroit.
He is playing a terrible run defense in Detroit. Miami does, believe it or not, they still do want to try to establish the run, even though it seems like, most of their plays are coming through the passing game. Edmonds is their receiving back, believe it or not. I would go with Edmonds in a desperation play.
I like Edmonds here too, just because I don't like these other options very much. Darrell Williams is a little bit interesting, but he can't seem to stay on the field for more than 2 plays. I can't depend on that. P. Ryan, I like long term. I love having the handcuff for that team, having that handcuff for Mixon. But for today, it's got to be Edmonds. But just because even on weeks where Mostert's been getting the heavy duty work, Edmonds is still picking you up about 7 to 10 points in a PPR league. So definitely want to get him out there on that one. You got something to add to that, George?
No, I need to go back and correct myself. I gave the wrong stat. I was looking at something else. The Cowboys lead the league in sacks. Jason, you were correct on that. And honestly, it's not really particularly close. It's 29-17 comparing the Cowboys and the Eagles. I think
I'm switching back to the Cowboys.
Yeah, I would go with the Cowboys defense there.
All right, everybody switch back to the Cowboys. I'm still sticking to the Eagles because they're, like I said, they're my defense of the week. We got Mini Jordan 718 again says full PPR, choose a flex. Mooney, Dubs, London, Wandell, Robinson. George, lead us off. What do you got?
I would love to go with Wandell Robinson here. If he's healthy, he is going to be the number 1 wide receiver for the Giants. The Giants have been playing relatively well, believe it or not. I'm trying to pull up the stats here on Wandell. Let me see. last week he had against the Jaguars 6 catches, 50 yards on 8 targets. So they're giving him a lot of targets that was all in the first half. They're playing against Seattle at Seattle. I expect it to be a tougher matchup, knowing that it's at Seattle versus being at New York. But with no Kadarius Toney, even though they weren't really using him that much, there's no Kenny Golladay. I'm going with Wan'Dale Robinson. He's gonna have a good game this week. I know he is. I'm gonna go with a gut feeling on this one and go with Wan'Dale.
I like it, Jason. Who you got here?
Well, so I'm looking at Minnie Jordan's last question about who he has to start at running back, and that if it's the same team, who knows if it is or not. Everybody's got a ton of teams, but let's say it's the same team. That means he needs to score points in order to win this, and I don't see that with Mooney. Mooney's a floor play to me, so I'm going to take Wan'Dale as a potential ceiling play. Yeah. And London, I still have him on my league because I think he's talented as all hell. But Mariota's thrown the ball 10, 11, 12 times. There's not enough there to go around to give anything to Drake London. Dobbs keeps dropping the ball, and we've talked about what happens to players for Aaron Rodgers who keep doing that. Now, it may be different because Aaron Rodgers doesn't have anybody to throw the ball to, but with that, I still can't go there. So Wan'Dale for me as a ceiling play, especially considering what running backs we just had to answer a question about.
Okay, and I actually agree with that. With Kadarius Toney getting traded this week, Wan'Dale's ticked up. Although, it's really close for me. I do really like Mooney because he's been very involved in that offense as well. So for me, it'd actually probably be Mooney, but I'll go ahead and give you the trifecta and go with Wan'Dale because they won it 2-1. Nate wants to know why would they sign another receiver when they don't throw to anyone but Kupp. Tyler Higbee probably has something to say about that. Tyler Higbee's actually been pretty good this season. Another Mike D getting that respect out there says Schultz or Pitts, Carter or Benjamin. I'll go ahead and lead this one off with Schultz or Pitts. I got to go with Pitts here. I don't like Schultz. His injury just seems to keep on creeping back up. And then the other half of that, Carter or Benjamin. I really like Carter today with Breece Hall out. We see a lot of that game plan being schemed out of that backfield, and Carter's going to be the go-to guy there. Jason, do you have anything to argue with that on that one?
Before last week, Pitts had only had one game where he had more than 2.7 PPR points. Like every other week was 2.7 or less. Pitts scored a touchdown last week. I don't know that that's a trend or just a fluke. Playing against a Carolina defense that's surprisingly better than advertised. I'm probably going to say Schultz, even though you drafted Pitts to play him. I'm going to say Schultz just because he looks like he's more involved than he has been with Dak back. And then I probably will start Benjamin over Carter. I just think I like the matchup for Benjamin over Carter playing against the Patriots. So I picked against you twice there, Mike.
There you go. I like it. George, what do you got right here?
Yeah, I'm putting Pitts on the bench. I'm going with Dalton Schultz over Pitts, which is kind of hard to believe. Pitts has just been absolutely terrible for fantasy managers this year. He scored 3 PPR points in 4 of 6. Like that is, you're finding waiver wire guys who are not your typical quote unquote streamers who are giving you more than 3 points in 6 games. Could score more than 3 points in 6 games. He finally last week he scored his first touchdown on U.S. soil. So far through 2 seasons, this guy's only got 2 touchdowns. He scored 1 last year and 1 so far this year. Like he has just not done it for fantasy managers. There's absolutely no way you can trust Kyle Pitts right now. Go with Dalton Schultz.
I remember hearing a lot of experts at the beginning of the season. Like that guy was their 101, even in Superflex redraft, right? Like for Dynasty redraft, because of how he's volatile as a tight end and should be so explosive as a tight end. But yeah, we just really haven't been seeing that out of him this year. Again, it's just always goes back to opportunity for me, and that's why I go with Carter. And Schultz has just been really scary. But I like your guys' take on both of those. Like it's Schultz and Carter for sure.
The problem, and it's not so much a Pitts problem, it's a team problem.
Yeah.
They got down multiple touchdowns against, and I want to say the Bengals, but I can't remember which team. They got down multiple touchdowns early, and still only pass the ball 12 times. Like
Yeah.
they're just
Not throwing-
they're not throwing the ball enough. So when you have 12 targets to go around and you've got somebody like Mariota who's getting rid of the ball and throwing it out of the backfield, or throwing it to the guys out of the backfield, let's say 3 or 4 of those, that means amongst like your wide receiver, like Drake London, what's his name? Obadiah, whatever.
Oh, meaty Zacchaeus.
There you go. And then you got Pitts, like what's that, 3 targets between the 3 of them to go? Like it's just not enough to be fantasy relevant.
Right, and then also add on to that Mariota, who's not very accurate. So those are just targets, right? We're still not talking about catches.
Not catchable targets.
Gotcha. Do either one of you guys know the answer to this? I asked the
I
crew,
did.
but I haven't gotten an answer yet.
I did. He
Dustin,
hasn't put it up yet.
Dustin, I have to agree with Jason. I want it.
I want it. He hasn't put it up yet, Dustin, so I'm going to say I won until I actually officially lose.
Excellent. Then
You know who won? Mike, you know who won? Everybody
did?
who got to watch that draft.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yes, just the audience. Nate says he's worried about Carter as well because Vera Tucker is out. That's a good point. Pickens, A-Rob, or Josh Reynolds, PPR. George, lead us off.
Oof, I'm going. Harley, I absolutely agree with your assessment there.
Right, that's horrible too, right?
Well, she's growling at Pickens and A-Rob. You can't trust either one of those guys. I already gave the argument for Josh Reynolds earlier, especially in a full PPR. I'm going with Josh Reynolds here, and honestly, it's not particularly close.
George says not even close. What do you say, Jason?
Oh man, for me it's close between Reynolds and Pickens. Just because, like we said, Pickett has eyes for Pickens and nobody else. But Reynolds going up against Miami, right?
Yep.
I'm gonna say
It's going to be a fast game. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm going Reynolds here.
yeah, I think that's why I go Reynolds as well, and not Pickens. I'm gonna go Reynolds.
And that's a clean sweep there as well. And gentlemen, that looks like that has us caught up on our questions. So we're just going to go ahead and get this thing going here so we can go get the other lineups there set. Guys, make sure you're doing the right thing. Go to Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, Twitch. Give us those 5-star ratings on there. Give us the likes, the subscribes. Gets us on different boards, gets us some attention out there. And that's all we're asking for, a little bit of attention, a few more eyes on us here and there, and get us to like and subscribe. We're getting very close to 1,000, so do the pyramid scheme thing, like, oh, hey, you should go on there and tell 2 friends, and we just keep going. Make sure you're going on toiletstitles.com. We got the best videos, articles. Shout out to Chuck Steele if you're out there, buddy. Thank you so much for your service. Hopefully everything kind of settles down for you, and we get to see you again here soon. But we're losing him writing articles, but we still got some of the best in the biz out there doing the content. But for sure, he will be missed on that thing. Make sure you get on that patreon.com/toiletstitles. The tiers are endless, man. They got some really good ones. To me, the best value is always going to be the $10 one because you get the Discord, you get the waiver wire show. Then you also get a free entry into the Frankenstank League, which Frankenstank is just such a fun league. It's always very exciting. It's always very scary when you're playing up against an opponent that has a decent lineup too. It's great when you got the gimmies, but boy, when you're up against it, because you got to play your best players and somebody's going to steal that best player from you. And we'll get this one question here real quick. He's struggling, y'all. AJ being a blowout or Amon-Ra in a tightly contested contest. I don't really think it's going to be that tightly of a contested contest, Detroit versus Miami. I think Miami is going to still blow them away. I like Amon-Ra, but I still feel like I'm leaning AJB here. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, I can't say AJ Brown this week. Yeah, it's going AJ Brown, and I know George just pumped his fist because Travis Etienne just scored a 1-yard touchdown. We're playing each other in the home league, and he's gonna kill me. Etienne's got 31 points as of now, and every score against Denver is a score against my defense. So it's a double whammy there for George.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome. Justin says if questions are done, he'll just say, despite his crappy internet, he won the Fun Day draft. And not having seen it myself, Dustin, I'm sure you probably did, dude. Like, these guys are beatable.
We all secretly voted behind the scenes to let the Patreon win. So
there you go. There you go. Gotta let the Patreon win. I'm sure that's not how it went down at all, Dustin. Dustin's a bad man. I like talking to him on the Discord chat in particular, man. He gets involved. He's always on there. Like I said, you want to go get on there. You want to get on that Patreon. That's $3 a month. That's less than a cup of coffee. So get out there, get that done. With that, guys, for myself, my man Jason, my man George, and of course our guys Joe and Jeff, who had to take off a little bit early with some prior obligations. We'd like to thank you, and we'd like to say see you guys next week. We'll be here same bat time, same bat channel. I don't think there's football next week, so we ought to be a little bit busier, hopefully. So with that, we'll just say goodbye, and you guys, good luck. Have a good week, and we will see you guys on the flip side, and we'll see you next week.